Hello! Welcome to Essay Nights, the Essay Slayers. My name is Julie and I will be your instructor as we read through communication media for banking industry. The article source is embedded in the video description below. Feel free to read along. Please note that you can get a custom, plagiarism-free essay for as little as $10 a page at Essay Nights. The link is in the description. Chapter 1, Introduction. Today's world is world of technology. Every day a new technology is introduced that can assist people in order to do their daily works easily and finally increase the quality of their life. These new technologies help their users in different aspects of their life by saving time, doing works faster and better with lower level of error. The rapid development of information technology has brought unprecedented influence on the life of millions of people around the globe. Various activities were handled electronically through the adoption of IT in the workplace or at home, for example, email, e-commerce and e-government, Guriting and Dubishi, 2006. One of these technologies that affects most people around the world is Internet, which was born in the last years of 20th century and rapidly broke boundaries, time and place. It brought more easily communication ways from usual daily activities to high-level official activities. Online shopping and paying is a symbol of developing Internet technology. People can stay at home, be at their workplace, or their car or any other place, and order their food, clothes, shoes and pay online and receive their orders without spending time for going to the shopping center or finding parking, so online paying helped as users saved their time and their money. Next generation of online paying is Internet banking, which means doing transactions online without going to the bank, staying in long queues, and without direct face-to-face interacting. The terms of PC banking, online banking, Internet banking, and mobile banking refer to a number of ways in which customers can access their banks without having to be physically present at a bank branch. PC banking relates to every banking business transacted from a customer's PC. This can be done through online banking, in which bank transactions are conducted within a closed network, or via Internet banking, which permits the customer to perform transactions from any terminal with access to the Internet. Mobile banking is the implementation of banking and trading transactions using an Internet-enabled wireless device. Mobile phones, PDAs, handheld computers, etc. Thus mobile banking, M-banking, is a subset of Internet banking, iBanking, Hazel and Raphael, 2001. The banking industry is using the new communication media to offer its services to the customers with convenience. Using Internet banking and its nearest technology, mobile banking, is increased during these years around the world. Malaysian penetration of Internet banking and mobile banking, as the base infrastructure for this paper, is mentioned as below. In all 5 continents, penetration of Internet and mobile banking are rapidly increasing. Especially in most developed countries, trend of Internet banking is increasing, also using mobile banking, is increasing. Most of Europe has embraced GSM, Global System for Mobile Communications, as a format for wireless technology. This more standardized wireless telecommunications infrastructure has yielded a higher level of acceptance and penetration, which has led to speculation that Europe will drive innovations in wireless communications. This technology can use to do both Internet banking and mobile banking, although still need time to adapt the mobile banking. In most countries this service is available, but because of its price and some uncertainty about its security, mobile banking is not popular yet. North America represents the flip side of the European situation. Wireless communications, though far from rare, lag behind Europe's penetration levels, while participation in the wired Internet is the highest in the world. The North American wireless infrastructure is not as widespread as standardized as its European counterpart. In the Middle East, has secured 15 wireless infrastructure contracts in regional markets over the last 12 months, most recently in Kuwait. Motorola's work in Kuwait involves a $14 million contract with wireless GSM operator MTC to implement a countrywide capacity enhancement. The dual-band network implementation will enable cell phones to utilize the most efficient network route and frequency, thus optimizing network performance. In spite of the fact that Internet and mobile banking has rapidly growth in all countries, but still there are people from developing countries that do not interest in use this facility. People of these countries are concerning about their personal information, privacy and security, and these are factors that will increase their uncertainty level of using internet banking. East African and West African countries in Malaysia interviewing. This anxiety can refer to their cultural background. Culture can refer to the customs and beliefs of a nation that stay with people for years, and changing a fundamental of this culture is not possible easily. So culture of a country can affect the culture of sub-societies in that country, such as organizational culture, educational culture and etc. So each nation and country has a special fundamental in order to go to the technology world and use technology as an assistant in their life. Statement of the problem. According to the previous discussion, although there is rapidly increasing in internet banking penetration, but still there is some unsafe feeling towards it. That means there are factors that can affect acceptance and adoption of a technology, beside existing factors such as usefulness, ease of use, subjective norm and etc. While essential research has been directed toward understanding the adoption and diffusion of IT, Prescott and Conger, 1995, there have been a few studies that specifically examine possible cultural effects on the adoption and dispersion of new information technologies, Raymond and Way, 1992. Research on the impact of corporate culture on IT acceptance provides a useful viewpoint, Cooper, 1994. Kidd and Jones, 1989. But ethnic or national culture research undoubtedly has a special character. The problem to be investigated is that there is no enough research that works on the effect of national culture on acceptance of technology. Thereafter, this study examines the role of culture on technology acceptance model, TAM, adoption and tries to give an in-depth view of Hofstede cultural dimensions towards acceptance of a technology, power distance index, PID, individualism collectivism, uncertainty avoidance. It is hoped that conclusions can be drawn and opened a window for managers and all who want to bring world of technology to their life and work. Research objective. The main aim of this paper is finding the role of culture in acceptance, a new technology that can be interpreted to culture role on the technology acceptance model. Beside the main objective, this study pursues following objectives, giving the overall view of Hofstede cultural dimensions in different countries based on their power distance index, individualism collectivism and uncertainty avoidance, opening a new window for all who work in IT and IS implementing, to bring technology in multinational and international organizations. Handling the problem that faced in multicultural society according to each person's cultural background. Research questions. Main question can be drawn as below. Is there any effect by Hofstede cultural dimensions, PDI, in CLV, UAI, on TAM? This main question can be expanded as below. Is there any effect by Hofstede cultural dimensions, PDI, in CLV, UAI, on perceived usefulness, PU? Is there any effect by Hofstede cultural dimensions, PDI, in CLV, UAI, on perceived ease of use, PEOU? Is there any effect by Hofstede cultural dimensions, PDI, in CLV, UAI, on subjective norm, SN? Is there any effect by Hofstede cultural dimensions, PDI, in CLV, UAI, on perceived behavioral control, PBC? Is there any effect by Hofstede cultural dimensions, PDI, in CLV, UAI, on behavioral intention, BI, to use internet banking? Scope of the study. In order to achieve the best results in finding different attitude towards technology acceptance, internet banking, among different people from different nations, students of 4 universities in Malaysia have been selected to administer the questionnaire in order to examine attitude towards internet and mobile banking. Because of large scope of this study and necessity of collaboration of more than 30 countries from the 5 continents in Malaysia, Embassy of 10 countries and their referees took part in this research by filling up questionnaires that was distributed by hand and by email. Also, staffs of some international organizations in Malaysia cooperate in this research. And the last one, social networks such as Facebook came to assist this paper by finding the different others countries communities in Malaysia. Significance of the study. As firms internationalize, there is a growing need to understand how cultural factors might affect a multinational organization's ability to adopt and utilize IT. Further studies may lead to knowledge that will help IT researchers and practitioners in improving the technology transfer process. Such knowledge will be worth to practitioners, because it could spell the difference between achievement and collapse in implementing IT. In the movement toward globalization of markets and corporate multinationalism, the value of more cross-cultural research is clear. Cash, McFarlane, McKinney and Applegate, 1992. In a large survey of information systems, more than half of the respondents felt that global IT issues were keys to their firm's future success. Ives and Jarvanpa, 1991. As firms grow their operations in the international arena, there is a need to exploit the power of IT to communicate among these widespread locations and to coordinate activities both within and across countries. Hence, it is important for the managers of these firms to learn, as much as they can, about the cross-cultural adoption and use of IT. Coucher, 1986. Kumar and Anderson, 1990. Such understanding can make the distinction between success and failure in executing information technology and system. This study will be clear the differences and similarities between countries' cultures, and will give nations' attitude towards technology acceptance. This study will be the first one that combines culture and TAM across the 5 continents. The result can assist managers and technology developers around the world in order to apply IT through international organization. The unique results of this study can be a base for future research and open a window to work on TAM as viewpoint of culture. Summary and organization of the remaining chapters. The main part of the dissertation is divided into 5 chapters, which will be briefly introduced. Chapter 1, Introduction. The introduction section of projects. A brief overview of the study is provided. Chapter 2, Literature Review. In this section, selected academic literature related to technology acceptance model, related theory and helps to cultural dimension and its related academic literatures. Then conceptual framework and steps to developing the hypothesis are discussed. Chapter 3, Methodology. The methodology section critically examines a range of research approaches and techniques. Sample and the size of samples, also one of the most important for this study, finding the sample from different countries who stay in Malaysia for study or work. The research technique that is selected for the study is design of experiment. Chapter 4, Analysis and results. In the analytical section, the research findings are explained briefly according to the data collection and analysis. Chapter 5, Discussion. In discussion section, the further interpretation and explanation the findings is provided and comparisons is made between the findings with other literature in the area of the study. Then the findings are summarized. Recommendations for future research and the practicing manager are made. Chapter 2, Literature Review. Introduction. This chapter is included of backgrounds and literatures in technology acceptance model, helps to cultural dimensions and previous research including of cultural role on TAM. This chapter will prove the unique work of this paper. Framework, definitions and hypothesis development for this study, will mention and discuss in this chapter. Technology acceptance model. Technology acceptance model, TAM, is one of the most influential extensions of Adson and Fishbein's theory of reason action, TRA, that has been widely used to predict user acceptance and use based on perceived usefulness and ease of use. According to TRA, an individual's behavioral intention, which results in actual behavior, is influenced by person-subject norm and attitude, and the attitude is influenced by individual beliefs. Adson and Fishbein, 1980. According to the Davis, 1989, TAM hypothesizes that behavioral intention is a significant determinant of actual system use, and that behavioral intention is determined by 2 relevant beliefs, perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use. In TAM, an individual's principle determines the attitude toward using the system. The attitude develops the intention to use. Perceived usefulness is related to productivity but perceived ease of use is related to effort. Venkatesh, 1999. This intention influences the decision of actual technology usage. These causalities were largely studied and accepted. Said Han, 2002. Morris and Dillon, 1997. Teo, Lim, Lai, 1999. The most significant results of Davis' study was the strong relation between usefulness and usage. Users of a technology tried to cope with difficulties of a system. Although difficulty of use can discourage adoption of a useful system, No amount of ease of use can give back for a system that does not perform a useful function. TAM used in several IS studies and proved useful determining technology acceptance, especially to explain computer usage behavior. This justifies why TAM is suitable for studies in computer acceptance. Given the rising popularity of electronic commerce technologies such as internet banking and mobile banking and the dynamic user behaviors identified above, the TAM is a suitable framework for this study. There are other widely used and well-known frameworks, such as uses and gratification or diffusion of innovation, but the TAM is considered the best fit for this study because other frameworks focus on different levels of analysis, macro, meso, or micro, or different topics of emphasis, diffusion mechanisms, etc. If modified appropriately, the TAM is the most effective tool for a study like this one, which investigates factors relating to usage and adoption, such as cultural dimensions. Sell et al., 2002. Morris et al., 1997. Teo et al., 1999. The TAM was stimulated by the theory of reason-action, 1980, which argues that both the attitude toward an action and subjective norms have an impact on behavioral intention, which in turn affects how people perform an action. The TAM was an early attempt to apply psychological factors to information systems and computer adoption. It assumed that perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use were major influences on an individual's attitude toward using technology and, thus, ultimately, were related to actual use. Davis, 1989. Technology Acceptance Model, TAM, has been widely used to predict user acceptance and use based on perceived usefulness and ease of use. Davis, 1989. TAM conceives that behavioral intention is a significant determinant of actual system use, and that behavioral intention is determined by two main beliefs, perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use. The perceived usefulness refers to the degree to which an individual believes that using a particular system would enhance his or her job performance. The perceived ease of use refers to the degree to which an individual believes that using a particular system would be free of physical and mental efforts. In TAM, an individual's belief settles on the attitude toward using the system and, in turn, the attitude develops the intention to use. This intention influences the decision of actual technology usage. With the bang of the Internet and convergence technologies, researchers have modified TAM to demonstrate the empirical evidences of it in the convergence context. In fact, many researchers have proposed various extended TAM. For instance, Moon and Kim, 2001, suggest a model where perceived playfulness was described as one of the antecedents of attitude toward web surfing. They noted that most prior TAM research had focused only on extrinsic motivation, not on intrinsic motivation. Morris and Dillon, 1997, found that TAM contributes to the prediction of individual usage of software. The motivational model that was adapted by Davis, Bogotsi, Warshaw, 1992, employs two key constructs, extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. According to Venkatesh and Spire, 1999, extrinsic motivation refers to the performance of an activity. Extrinsic motivation is perceived to help achieve valued outcomes that are distinct from the activity itself, such as improving job performance, pay, etc. Intrinsic motivation refers to the performance of an activity for no reason other than the process of performing it. In the case of technology acceptance studies, perceived usefulness is an example of extrinsic motivation. Davis et al., 1992, found that perceived enjoyment was significantly related to the perceived ease of use. In the research on the usage intentions for information systems, Hayden, 2004, adds perceived an enjoyment to TAM model. Cheong and Park, 2005, also develop a more comprehensive version of TAM to better reflect mobile internet context. Their model employs perceived playfulness, content quality, system quality, internet experience and perceived price level, in addition to perceived usefulness and ease of use. For the mobile services, Nazveen et al., 2005, investigate the consumer's intention to use mobile services, which shows the four overall influences on usage intention: motivational influences, attitudinal influences, normative pressure, and perceived control. Similarly, Fogilgren-Pedersen, 2005, found that connection stability and geographic coverage are one of the significant variables of perceived relative advantage in mobile Internet. Also, in the Worldwide Mobile Internet User Survey, 2005, found that perceived enhanced utility of mobile services are the strong value motivating use of mobile technology. While these studies found the significant perceived variables, they still do not find variables specific to mobile Internet. Viswanath Venkatesh, Morris, B. Davis, D. Davis, 2003, worked on this issue and 8 prominent models are discussed. The 8 models and their extensions are empirically compared. A unified model is formulated that integrates elements across the 8 models, and the unified model is empirically validated. Using data from 4 organizations over a 6-month period with 3 points of measurement, the 8 models explain between 17% and 53% of the variance in user intentions to use information technology. Next, a unified model, called the Unified Theory of Acceptance and Use of Technology, UTAUT, was formulated, with 4 core determinants of intention and usage, and up to 4 moderators of key relationships. UTAUT provides a useful tool for managers needing to assess the likelihood of success for new technology introductions and helps them understand the drivers of acceptance in order to proactively design interventions targeted at populations of users that may be less inclined to adopt and use new systems. Theory of Reason Action, TRA, drawn from social psychology. TRA is one of the most fundamental and inflectional theories of human behavior. It has been used to predict a wide range of behaviors. Davis et al. 1989, applied TRA to individual acceptance of technology and found that the variance explained was largely consistent with studies that employ TRA in context of other behaviors. Technology Acceptance Model, TAM. TAM is tailored to IS contexts, and was designed to predict information technology acceptance and usage on the job. Unlike TRA, the final conceptualization of TAM excludes the attitude construct in order to better explain intention parsimoniously. TAM2 extended TAM by including subjective norm as an additional predictor of intention in the case of mandatory settings, Venkatesh and Davis 2000. TAM has been widely applied to a diverse set of technologies and users. Theory of Planned Behavior. TPB extended TRA by adding the construct of perceived behavioral control is theorized to be an additional determinant of intention and behavioral. Edson, 1991, presented a review of several studies. They successfully used TPB to predict intention and behavior in a wide variety of settings. TPB has been successfully applied to the understanding of individual acceptance and usage of many different technologies. Taylor and Todd, 1995. A related model is the decomposed theory of planned behavior, DTPB. In terms of predicting intention, DTPB is identical to TPB. In contrast to TPB but similar to TAM, DTPB decomposes attitude, subjective norm, and perceived behavioral control into the underlying belief structure within technology adaptation contexts. Combine TAM and TPB. It is a combination of TPB-TAM to provide a hybrid model. Taylor and Todd, 1995, Innovation Diffusion Theory, IDT, grounded in sociology, IDT, Rogers 1964, has been used since the 1960s to study a variety of innovations, ranging from agricultural tools to organizational innovation, Tornatsky and Klein 1982. Within information systems, Moore and Ben-Bassett, 1991, adapted the characteristics of innovations presented in Rogers and refined a set of constructs that could be used to study individual technology acceptance. Moore and Ben-Bassett, 1996, found support for the predictive validity of these innovations. Social cognitive theory, SCT, one of the most powerful theories of human behavior is social cognitive theory, Bonder, 1986. Campeau and Higgins, 1995. Applied and extended SCT to the context of computer. While Campeau and Higgins, 1995, also employed SCT, it was to study performance and thus is outside the goal of the current research. Campeau and Higgins, 1995, model studied computer use but the nature of the model and the underlying theory allow it to be extended to acceptance and use of information technology in general. The original model of Campeau and Higgins, 1995, used usage as a dependent variable but in keeping with the spirit of predicting individual acceptance. In 2008, A9AYTZ358D, Kim, Y, Han, H did a revising research on Venkatesh work. They claim that in previous study there seem to be two critical factors that are overlooked or have received inadequate attention: perceived risk, PR, and technology type. PR has been recognized as an important factor and was modeled as a precursor of perceived usefulness, PU, and a subconstruct of others, such as trust, or as its precursor. In their study, PR and technology type, consider as additional to the moderating variables in UTAUTN was tested how they moderate the effects of PU and PU on users' intention to use a technology. It was shown that PR and technology type were moderating variables. Kim, 2006, added two new constructs: perceived cost savings and companies' willingness to fund, and two causal relationships, job relevance and experience, as moderating effects to previous existing model, and proved that there is a strong significant relationships between PCS and CWTF in behavioral intention to use a technology. Also, moderating effects of job relevance was proved, also found that an individual's intention to use mobile wireless technology was significantly affected by CWF. Kim claimed that a company must provide technology to their employees to help them perform their jobs. Finally, the individuals adopt a technology if it is within their prior experience, which was found to be significant moderator between CWF and BI. Prior studies based on TAM did not examine the direct link from self-efficacy to behavioral intention, assuming the full mediation of perceived ease of use, but Khalifa, 2008, integrated the theory of planned behavior, Fishbein and Adson, 1975. Adson and Madden, 1986, and the Technology Acceptance Model, TAM, Davis, 1989, to explain the adoption of m-commerce as a new technology. He added subjective norm to the main block of TAM as in factors that have positive direct effect on the individual's intention, and self-efficacy as a positive direct effect on the individual's intention to adopt m-commerce. During the years, researchers examined different items and their relations with TAM models. They have used original framework of TAM and found relation between them. In paper by Jun Liu et al. 2008, was worked on different aspects of new technology in China, such as WMDS. These items are type of technology, functionality of that technology, interface design, personal innovativeness in information technology, PIIT, facilitating conditions, social influences, security, trust, privacy and reliability of that technology. The result of this paper showed that intention to use WMDS via mobile phones in China was dependent on an individual's perceptual beliefs about the target services in terms of their usefulness and eases of use, and also relied on PIIT and mobile trust belief. According to Dong Hee-shin, 2007, who work on Webro acceptance in Korea, users' perceptions are significantly associated with their motivation to use Webro. Specifically, perceived quality and perceived availability are found to have significant effect on users' extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. These factors play as enhancing factors to attitudes and intention. In 2005, Kim et al. Work on a value-based adoption of a technology such as mobile banking. A value-based adoption model, VAM, would be able to capture the monetary sacrifice element and present adoption as a comparison of benefits and costs. By combination of value-based adoption model, VAM, of M-Internet, and by integrating the most relevant findings of the technology adoption and value literature, Kim, 2005, designed its framework by dividing it to benefits and sacrifices. He suggested that customers' evaluation of a product includes both cognitive and affective elements, and that products are purchased for their utilitarian and hedonic benefits, so it can be proved that usefulness and enjoyment as the benefit components of perceived value. Perceived sacrifices are both monetary and non-monetary. Monetary spending includes the actual price of the product, and it is generally measured based on customers' perceptions of the actual price paid. Non-monetary costs usually include time, effort, and other unsatisfactory spending for the purchase and consumption of the product. Yang, 2004, did a research that examines different items that could affect technology acceptance. Innovation, past adaptation behavior, Knowledge, technology cluster, age, gender and specialization were items that were tested in relation with technology acceptance in Yang study. He provided insights into the relationships between PU, AT, consumer innovation adoption behavior, and demographic variables, and also offers empirical data to support the suitability of the TAM through examining the emerging m-commerce technology and application. PU is found to predict consumer adoption of m-commerce. Consumer innovativeness introduced into the TAM research to expand the scope of TAM applicability to m-commerce that is yet to accumulate a critical mass in the diffusion process. According to the Lopez-Nicola S., Melina Castillo, Harry Bowman, 2008, social factors are the important factors that influence on people's decision to adopt a new technology such as mobile services. They try to evaluate the impact of different determinants on behavioral intention in the adoption of advanced mobile services, by combining acceptance models with diffusion theory models theory. In particular, we assume that social influence may be a key element in people's intention to use the services and applications. Social influence was defined as the degree to which individuals believed that others thought they should use advanced mobile services. The views of friends and relatives have a significant impact on using mobile services. Lopez-Nicola S. et al. Proved that as a manager, the POU and behavioral intention depended significantly on social influences. So for bringing new services and technologies for organizations, notice to the employee's cultural background is important. In a study by Amin, 2008, who used original TAM model defining factors affecting the intentions of customers in Malaysia to use mobile banking, proved that bank managers should create favorable perceptions concerning the usefulness and ease of use among mobile phone credit card customers. Creating these positive perceptions might be achieved by offering free seminars to customers about the ease of use of the system. Malaysian consumers often take up marketing initiatives of this type. Additionally, the banks should provide a mini guide at all branches that provides succinct and cogent information concerning the efficiency, effectiveness and risk-free attributes of the mobile phone credit card system. In 2009, Gu, Lee, Sun, integrated the fragmented models such as the extended TAM and the trust-based TAM into a unified model of mobile banking. They found that self-efficiency is the strongest antecedent of perceived ease of use, which directly and indirectly affected behavioral intention through perceived usefulness. Also was found the structural assurances are the strongest antecedent of trust, which could increase behavioral intention of mobile banking. Gu et al. Research was listed most important work on technology acceptance that used TAM as base. For example, Taylor and Todd, 1995, selected Computing Resource Center and worked on usefulness, ease of use, attitude and behavioral intention. They worked on subjective norm and perceived behavioral control as their study antecedents. Complete list of work on TAM was brought in Appendix A. Halfstead cultural dimensions. Culture has been defined according to several perspectives. Definitions go from the most complex and the most comprehensive, for example Klugen, 1962, to the most simple, for example Triandis, 1972, Halfstead, 1997. According to Klugen, 1962, culture consists of patterns, explicit and implicit, of and for behavior acquired and transmitted by symbols, constituting the distinctive achievement of human groups, including their embodiments in artifacts. p. 73. Halfstead cultural dimensions served as the most influential culture theory among social science research. Nokata and Sivakumar, 2001. In addition, Halfstead cultural framework has also received strong empirical support by Sondergaard work, 1994. Geert Halfstead research gives insights into other cultures so that it will be more effective when interacting with people in other countries. If understood and applied properly, this information should reduce level of nuisance, concern, and distress. But most important, Geert Halfstead will give the edge of understanding which translates to more successful results. In 1980, Halfstead offered his famous description of cultural dimensions. Geert Halfstead collected and analyzed a large database of employee values scores of IBM between 1967 and 1973. It was included more than 70 countries. He first used the 40 largest countries and then extended the analysis to 50 countries and 3 regions. From the preliminary findings, and later researches, Hofstede developed a model that identifies 4 primary dimensions to define and differentiating cultures. First dimension was Power Distance Index, PDI. Second was Individualism Collectivism, IND. Third dimension was Masculinity Femininity. And finally he offered Uncertainty Avoidance, UAI. Geert Hofstede added another dimension after carrying an additional international study with an examination instrument developed with Chinese employees and managers. Description of each Hofstede cultural dimensions is listed below. Power Distance Index, PDI, that is the extent to which the less powerful members of organizations and institutions, like the family, accept and expect that power is distributed unequally. Hofstede, 1980. This will be a symbol of inequality. He suggests that a society's level of inequality is approved by the followers as much as by the leaders. Power and inequality are extremely fundamental facts of any society, and anybody with some international experience will be aware that all societies are unequal, but some are more unequal than others. Individualism, IND, is another dimension that collectivism is its opposite, that is the degree to which individuals are integrated into groups. Hofstede, 1980. On the individual culture, it was found that societies in which the ties between individuals are loose, that can be meant every person is expected to look after him herself and his her immediate family. In collectivism cultures, he pronounced that in societies that people from beginning were integrated into strong, cohesive in groups, often extended families, with uncles, aunts and grandparents, which continue protecting them in exchange for unquestioning loyalty. Hofstede, 1980. The word collectivism does not carry political meanings. It just refers to the group, not to the state. Masculinity femininity describes to what extent social gender roles are clearly distinct. Masculine societies emphasize undifferentiated sex roles and independence. Male gender is assertive and focused on material values, while women are kind and think about the quality of life. In feminine societies, overlapping gender roles and interdependence are the norm. Men and women are supposed to be focused on material things and concerned with quality of life. Hofstede, 1980, Uncertainty Avoidance Index, UAI, comes with a society's tolerance for uncertainty and ambiguity. It shows to what extent people in a society feel uncomfortable or comfortable with culture programs in unstructured situations. Unstructured situations are novel, unknown, surprising, and different from usual. Uncertainty-avoiding cultures try to decrease the possibility of such situations by severe laws and rules, safety and security measures, and on the philosophical and religious level by a belief in absolute truth. Hofstede, 1980. The opposite type, uncertainty-accepting cultures, are more tolerant of activities different from what they are used to. They prefer have few rules, and on the philosophical and religious level they are relativist and allow many currents to flow side by side. People within these cultures are more apathetic and thoughtful, and not expected by their environment to express emotions. Last dimension that was defined and added to previous one is long-term orientation, LTO, versus short-term orientation. This dimension was found in a study among students in 23 countries around the world. Using a questionnaire designed by Chinese scholars, it can be said to deal with virtue regardless of truth. Values associated with long-term orientation are saving and persistence. Values associated with short-term orientation are respect for tradition, fulfilling social obligations, and protecting one's face. Technology acceptance in view of cultural dimensions. Cross-cultural researchers have traditionally used Hofstede, 1980, 1997, definition of culture that focus on the comparison of one culture with others. This is an etic definition of culture. Researchers that follow an etic approach in cross-cultural consumer research generally look for universal or culture-free theories and concepts. They search for variables and constructs common to all cultures that can be directly compared in order to discover how those cultures are different from or similar to each other. This approach is typical of cross-cultural psychology and other comparative social sciences. Luna. Gupta, 2001. One study that tries to find the moderating effect of culture on the acceptance and adaptation of a technology is Pavlu and Chai, 2002, work. They used Hofstede cultural dimension in order to better understand what drives e-commerce across cultures, and applied a theory of planned behavior, TPB. There are three types of beliefs in the TPB that affect three perceptual constructs: behavioral beliefs that influence attitudes, normative beliefs that affect subjective norm, and control beliefs that shape perceived behavioral control. Perspective: to capture behavioral intentions to transact online in two dissimilar countries, China and the United States, they worked on power distance, individualism, collectivism, and long-term orientation dimensions. They proved that attitude had a significant effect on transaction intention for the collectivist society of China, but unexpected finding related to the impact of perceived behavior control, where control has a stronger effect on transaction intention in the US than in the Confucian Chinese society. Perhaps the reason lied in the utilitarian nature of the online consumer, Jarvin and Todd, 1997, especially in the US. As noted by Kufaris, 2002, online consumers demand more control, less effort, and higher efficiency. Harris, Reddy, Kwan, 2005, worked on attitude toward a new technology such as mobile commerce between two countries, United Kingdom and Hong Kong. They found significant differences between the UK and Hong Kong in usage of and attitudes to m-commerce services. Harris et al. 2005, used two Hofstede dimension for doing their research, power distance and individualism collectivism. They proved that hedonic m-commerce services and word-of-mouth recommendation as an influencer to use m-commerce will be more significant for Hong Kong collectivism culture with high power distance than United Kingdom with individualism and low power distance index. In 1997, Straub, Keel and Brenner applied TAM model across three different countries, the United States, Japan and Switzerland. Their aim of study was examine the cultural effect of different regions on acceptance of technologies such as mobile. Straub et al. 1997, defined Hofstede cultural dimension and their impact on technology acceptance and adaptation. Uncertainty avoidance: the degree to which members of a society feel uncomfortable with uncertainty and doubt, could affect technology acceptance by influencing choices of computer-based media in opposition to traditional media, and cultural differences in uncertainty avoidance, specifically, could affect the way in which individuals choose media for their communication tasks. With respect to organizational communication behavior, prior research had focused specifically on uncertainty and ambiguity as principal factors in predicting media use. Information richness theory, 1984. 1987, imagines that individuals choose a communication medium by matching the information requirements of the task to the information richness of the media. Richness in a medium is a function of the interactiveness of the feedback channel, the personal quality of the source, and the ability of the interface to express innuendos. For tasks high in uncertainty and doubt, for example, negotiation and conflict resolution, it is thought that people will use rich channels, such as face-to-face communication. For tasks low in uncertainty and ambiguity, for example, information memos and simple information exchange, simpler channels suffice. Electronic media such as email are believed to be rather simple channels because they carry only literally information and not the personal presence or force of the communicator. Totally, one effect on media choice is that cultures in which individuals tend to avoid uncertainty, that is, high uncertainty avoidance index, or UAI, are expected to use electronic media less often since these media are not well suited to uncertainty reduction as face-to-face and other rich channels. Straub et al. 1997. Straub's study showed that power distance as other important dimension of culture can affect technology acceptance. In societies in which managers and workers are separated by a large power distance, the leveling effect of computer-based media is not seen or felt as a desirable feature in a culture with high power distance index. Individuals may show deference to authority by abstaining from using media that do not allow them face-to-face contact, or, at the very least, access to a richer set of cues than simple textual messaging. Thus, the range of use of technologies such as email and other electronic media should be restricted by such social norms. Workers in cultures in which relatively smaller power distance occur will, accordingly, be able to use such technologies in more communications settings. Next cultural index that Straub believed has effect on acceptance. A new technology is individualism collectivism. Low individualism, low IDV, possibly affects a culture against computer-based communications because these media mute the group effect. People in collectivist cultures cannot pick up cues about the social situation as readily from computer-based media and, therefore, would be disposed, overall, toward media such as face-to-face across all communications tasks. The last index, that Straub, 1997, explained its relation with technology acceptance as masculinity-femininity. High-Ma's index can be translated to the high relationship with interpersonal presence. According to Straub, it can be predicted that media not conveying the social presence of the communicator, such as email, would not be favored in cultures in which masculinity is a strong cultural. By looking at the Straub, 1997, study results, it was clear that TAM would be successful in explaining the US and Swiss experience but not the Japanese experience. This effect may occur in spite of the rational usefulness found in the medium. In case of Japan, cultural tendencies toward more uncertainty avoidance, greater power distances between managers and workers, collectivist opinions, and masculinity may limit email use and disassociate usefulness from use. Straub, 1997. Straub gave a special explanation on cultural dimensions and their effect on using a technology framework, in purpose of finding the cultural dimensions role in technology acceptance. This paper will follow the Davis, 1980, Pavlou and Chai, 2002, and Straub et al. 1997, Cultural Framework, Explanation of Relation between TAM and Hofstede Cultural Dimensions will use McCoy, Everard and Jones, 2005, research. But the unique way of this study is that it is trying to find differences and similarities in behaviors toward TAM in different levels. Proposed framework is as below: perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use, that is Davis, 1980, were explained in previous section of this literature. Subjective norm is seen as a combination of perceived expectations from relevant individuals or groups along with intentions to comply with these expectations. In other words, the person's perception that most people who are important to him or her think he should or should not perform the behavior in question. Azjen and Fishbein, 1975. Morrison Venkatesh, 2000, investigated age differences in adoption intentions and continued use of information technology using the theory of planned behavior. They found that workers were strongly influenced by subjective norm, although age and length of exposure moderated the effects. Based on the TPB, it is expected that subjective norm will have an influence on the intentions of consumers to engage in online transactions. Perceived behavioral control refers to an individual's perceived ease or difficulty of performing the particular behavior. Abson, 1988. It is assumed that perceived behavioral control is determined by the total set of accessible control beliefs that can have effect on individuals' behavior to use a technology such as internet banking. This paper will use PDI, NCLC and UAI as cultural dimension. From Pavlou and Chai Research, 2005, Individualism, Collectivism and Power Distance was selected and based on Straub, 1997, UAI was used, also from McCoy et al. 2005, research was used. Explanation of relation of UAI, PD and NCLV with technology acceptance model. Next section under the literature part will explain designing of the country's table based on Hofstede cultural dimensions and developing the hypothesis that explains the research hypothesis according to the TAM and cultural dimension. There are 2 steps in order to develop hypothesis for this paper. Design of country's table based on Hofstede cultural dimensions. In the first step, countries were selected according to the Hofstede scores, 1980. That means based on countries' tables that Hofstede defined in his researches, a first design was drawn of countries according to their PDI. In CLV and UAI, countries were divided according to their score in above 3 dimensions. For power distance index, countries were categorized from low to moderate, and moderate to high. In order to find countries' dimension in IDV CLV, again 2 scales, one low to moderate and second, moderate to high, were defined. UAI for technologies such as internet banking and mobile banking is an important dimension, because these type of technology that related to the security, privacy and personal information, always carry high level of UAI between people, Pavlu and Chai, 2002. Because of nature of these technology and situation that people cannot interact directly with the bank staff, was defined as an uncertainty level. So it was very important that countries in these dimensions were scored carefully. This paper used 3 different scales in order to divide countries according their UAI scores. Countries divided to low, moderate and high level separately from each other, revised the 2 other indexes at 2 levels. In this step again countries were arranged according to their 3 dimensions while each country found its place in the table that show its PDI level, in CLV level and UAI level. After arrangement countries according to the above direction, a table was designed with 12 cells. The table shows countries with similarities in dimensions in each cell. That means cells of this table show countries with similar cultural dimension in each cell. Table 2.3 The first cell of the table showed countries with low PDI, low and low level of UAI, Jamaica. In cell number 2, define countries with moderate to high level of power distance, low to moderate level of and low level of UAI. China, Hong Kong, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Vietnam, low PDI and IDV, and moderate level of UAI refer to countries that were in cell number 3. Austria, Iran, Taiwan, Pakistan, Arab world, Bangladesh, Brazil, Colombia, East Africa, West Africa, Venezuela, Thailand and Ecuador are countries in 4th cell, with high level of PDI and low level of individualism and moderate level of uncertainty avoidance. Cell number 5 fills up with countries that have low score in power distance and individualism but high score in UAI, Argentina, Costa Rica, Greece, Israel, Japan, Malta, South Korea and Spain. Cell number 6 was included Chile, Guatemala, Mexico, Panama, Peru, Portugal, Romania, Russia, Romania, Turkey, Uruguay, Bulgaria and El Salvador that index as high power distance, low individualism and high level of UAI. Low dimension in power distance and high in individualism with low level of uncertainty avoidance referred to cell number 7 that included Canada, Denmark, Ireland, New Zealand, Norway, South Africa, Sweden, the United States, and United Kingdom. Country in cell number 8 has moderate power distance to high, moderate individualism to high and low level of UAI, Slovakia. Low level in power distance, high level in individualism and moderate level of UAI are characteristics of cell number 9, Finland, Germany, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Switzerland and Australia. Cell number 10 carry moderate to high in power distance index, and moderate to high individualism index and moderate level of UAI. Italy. Number 11 was low PDI, high individualism and high UAI, Hungary, and finally, cell number 12 had characteristics of high power distance index, high individual index and high level in uncertainty avoidance, Belgium and France. After preparing the above table of countries, second step of developing hypothesis was started. The table of countries according to their PDI, IDV, CLV and UCA was brought in the below. Development of hypothesis, according to the figure 2.2, perceived usefulness, ease of use, subjective norm in perceived behavioral control and behavioral intention to use internet banking are the study's constructs. This paper will examine the Hofstede-cultural dimensions effects on these constructs. In other words, here will be tried to find cultural effects on technology acceptance model, whether they lead to different behaviors on various level of dimensions that will define in this study for each construct or not. So main hypothesis of this study will be, cultural dimensions have effect on technology acceptance model. By expanded of this hypothesis, the results can be written as below. Perceived usefulness. Perceived usefulness refers to the extent to which users feel using a technology will increase their performance. As stated above, culture is expected to affect the relationship between PU and BI. Specific arguments follow using each of the cultural dimensions. The cultural dimensions in different levels of PDI, low and high, low and high, and UAI, low, moderate and high, can lead to different behaviors toward usefulness construct in TAM. Ease of use. Perceived ease of use refers to the perceived ease of use refers to whether the user feels using a new technology is free from effort. So, Culture is expected to affect the relationship between perceived ease of use and behavioral intention. In next pages, each of cultural dimensions will be arguments. HB, for next construct, ease of use, the cultural dimensions in different levels of PDI, low and high, and low and high, and UAI, low, moderate and high, can lead to different behaviors toward ease of use construct in TAM. Subjective norm refers to the influence others around users will have on their decision-making to use technology, internet banking. Culture is expected to affect the relationship between subjective norm and behavioral intention. Uncertainty avoidance, HC for subjective norm, the cultural dimensions in different levels of PDI, low and high, and low and high, and UAI, low, moderate and high, can lead to different behaviors. Also interactive these dimensions can lead to different behaviors and subjective norm construct in TAM. Perceived behavioral control, PBC refers to whether users feel using a system is within their control. In users of internet banking feel this is under their control, intention to use internet banking services will be high. This paper expects culture moderate to PBC in BI relationship. HD, for perceived behavior control, the cultural dimensions in different levels of PDI, low and high, and UAI, low, moderate and high, can lead to different behaviors. In perceived behavior control construct in TAM behavioral intention to use internet banking, BI, behavioral intention refers to a sign of an individual's willingness to make a given behavior. He, for behavior intention, the cultural dimensions in different levels of PDI, low and high, and UAI, low, moderate and high, can lead to different behaviors. In behavior intention to use internet banking construct. In the next chapter, methods for proof hypothesis, analysis methods and the results of these analyses will be discussed. Chapter 3, Methodology Introduction. This chapter explains in detail the methodology used in gathering information necessary to conduct this study. It highlights questionnaire design, identifying the constructs, sources of data used and the survey design, which includes the sampling plan, assumption of the study and data analysis method employed. The steps involved were elaborated in details and have been carried out systematically in order to achieve the high degree of reliability and validity. Identifying the constructs. This paper has listed and searched literatures mainly from top journals and information system that reflects the topic of this study. Some of these referred journals are MIS Quarterly as one of the most important and reliable journal, Information and Management, Decision Support Systems, Information Systems Research, International Journal of Electronic Commerce. All these journals are under ISI. Beside these journals, for cultural part in literature and definition of culture, some reference book was used such as Culture and Organizations, Software of the Mind by Hofstede. Management Sciences Journal from Management and Organization field that was used in this paper. A comprehensive review of the above literature was the basis for assuring the content validity of the instrument used in the study. 5 dimensions of TAM: usefulness, ease of use, subjective norm, perceived behavioral control and behavioral intention, are developed and itemized into 5 sets in order to find relation between each item with behavioral intention, BI. Appendix B, this paper constructed using items from instruments measuring perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use, Davis, 1980, subjective norm, perceived behavioral control and behavioral intention, Taylor and Todd, 1995, and culture, Hofstede, 1980. The technology acceptance items were adapted and changed slightly to fit the technology under investigation. Internet mobile banking. The cultural items were used exactly as they appeared in prior research of Hofstede, 1980. Sources of data. Data sources are classified as being either primary sources or secondary sources. A source is primary if the data collector is the one using the data analysis. A source is secondary if one organization or individual has compiled the data to be used by another organization or individual. In this study, primary sources of data, which are interviews and distributed questionnaires, are used to analyze the data gathered. The instrument or measure used is a structured questionnaire based on the literature review on the relevant topics. Face-to-face interview in order to find African sample was used in first step. and then give them questionnaires by hand. Because of cross-cultural aspect of this study and assumption that all samples must study or work in Malaysia, an email version of questionnaires was sent to them. Another assumption for this study is that all samples have enough ability in English language skills. Selections of measures. The survey instrument consisted of 2 parts. In Part A of the questionnaire, demographic of students was asked. Some were assigned to certain categories and it is mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. In Part B of the questionnaire, survey respondents were asked to state their level of agreement of each statement for 7 dimensions of TAM on a 7-point scale, -5 represent strongly disagree to 5 representing strongly agree. 0 neither disagree nor agree. According to Cooper, 2000, this type of scale is considered to be a ratio scale. Therefore, measurement of central tendency and its dispersion can be made. Sampling based on the main aim of this study to draw people according to their cultural value, then finding cultural effect on TAM, framework and table. This paper needs different samples from different countries that stay in Malaysia. Gathering data for this research paper included different stage and level. For university students, UTM, MMU, Lim Kok Kwing, more than 7 embassies in Malaysia, Belgium, Hungary, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Ukraine, Mexico, Jamaica, Bulgaria, and more than 3 international organizations participated in this survey. The social networks such as Facebook community in Malaysia were another source for handle sampling for this paper. This paper tried to select necessary samples based on fair condition and ethical situation. Issues and international dimensions of survey were considered, such as language differentiation, time of data collected across culture and ethical issues in data collection. Sekaran, 2003, in the first stage, questionnaire was sent through the mail to the MBA student, University of Malaya. All Iranian and some Malaysian students replied through the mail. That means cell number 3, countries with low power distance, low individualism and moderate level of uncertainty avoidance, and number 2, high level of power distance, low level of individualism and low level of uncertainty avoidance. So again, a printout version of questionnaire was distributed to the UMGSB students. Students was selected according to their nationality, and so the cell number 2 filled up by this way. Also some sample for cell number 4 was gathered. Arab countries, Egypt, Kuwait, Lebanon, Libya, Saudi Arabia and UAE, but still was needed more sample for 4th cell, high power distance index, high individualism and moderate uncertainty avoidance. Finding samples for the cell number 4 was a little bit harder. For finding the people for the cell, Multimedia University, Lim Kok Kwing University and University Technology of Malaysia were selected. There were a lot of students from East and West African and Arab countries. Sample from Arab countries who have used internet banking or mobile banking were found easily. Problem raised for finding sample from East and West Africa. According to the short interview with them, it was found that most of them never used internet banking in their home countries, and in Malaysia have hardly tried it more than 10 times. They said all of them have internet facilities and also internet banking service available in their home countries, but because of high uncertainty avoidance in their culture and fear of security problem and privacy, they never have used internet banking in their home countries. In order to create a fair situation for all people who were participated in this research, choosing African samples was under one condition, that none of the elements of samples have lived in Malaysia less than 6 months. Under this condition, they had enough time to adapt themselves with host country, Malaysia, internet banking facilities. After short interview and finding that users of online banking facilities are, questionnaires were distributed among them. By this way, 4th cell and table was found as samples. Cells numbers 5 and 6, by visiting the embassy of countries, also finding people who work in Malaysia, were completed. In order to find elements of samples for countries with low power distance, high individualism and low level of uncertainty avoidance, cell number 7, exchange student from European and the United States were participated to fill up questionnaire. Also British Council and ELS lecturers in KL were selected to fill up questionnaire by sending email or giving the printing version of questionnaire. Cell numbers 9 and 12 were completed by finding samples through people who work and study in Malaysia. Cells number 1, 8, 10, and 11 were cells that samples of them completed by referring to their embassy in KL. Social networking such as Facebook assists this paper finding the elements of sample through the Malaysia community Slovakian in Malaysia. Sampling size Roscoe, 1975, proposes that the appropriate sample size for most research to be greater than 30 and less than 500. Needed samples for this research are at least 180 elements, and it is 15 for each cells. Around 270 questionnaires gathered from who work or study in Malaysia by mail or by hand. Because of necessity of this study to collaborate people of different nation, some questionnaire were backed by email. It was around 105 questionnaires. Printout version of questionnaire that was collected is around 165. Through these questionnaires, 243 questionnaires were used as a useful for analysis part. Around 27 questionnaires were detected as unused questionnaires. Data Analysis Method Statistical Program for Social Science, SPSS, is used to analyze in this paper. The data was analyzed by design of experiment method, DOE, for reliability test. The cron box alpha is used to ensure the measures are free from error and produce consistent results. Factor analysis was used in order to validity test of each construct. More information and tables about factor analysis and process of doing it were shown in Appendix C in order to analyze and find results. General linear model and three-way analysis of variances was used in this paper. Chapter 4, Research Finding Introduction. This chapter examines the results of the study. Descriptive statistics were explored the data to understand the nature and characteristics of the data. It helps the researchers in selecting and using the appropriate analyses or procedures in hypothesis testing. Demographic characteristics of respondents. Descriptive analysis. For Part A, demographic data was collected on gender, age, educational level and occupation was in Part A of questionnaire. Beside these items, home country of respondent was asked as important item in this part. From 243 respondents, 143 respondents were male and 10 respondents were female. Female that mean 58.8 male and 42% female. The age of respondents is in 19 to 66 age range. The youngest user of internet banking is 19-year-old, and the oldest user of it is 66-year-old. Educational level of respondents from primary level to postgraduate level was divided. 50% respondents are in postgraduate level, and remains were divided between PMR, SPM, diploma, professional or certified degree and others degrees. In occupational part, there are 7 chief executive officers, CEO, 2.9%, 37 middle management, 15.2%, assistant managers or senior managers 40, 16.5% supervisor 35, 14.4%, and people who work for themselves as owner or individual 199, 49%. More tables in Appendix X were shown. With deeply look at the demographic part, Part A of questionnaire, there is items in questionnaire which asked about each respondent home countries. This part was used to design the Table 2.3. The process was that each respondent home country was defined and then, according to the Part 2.6 of Chapter 2, each country was dedicated to its related cell in Table 2.3. Summary of respondents of each cell was shown in Table 4.1. Measure reliability. The reliability of findings obtained using the survey instrument was assessed. According to Nunali, 1978, the Green box alpha is an estimate of reliability based on the average correlation between items with each factor. The score of over 0.7 is considered to be good. Nunali, 1978. In this study, the Green box alpha coefficient for all the dimensions are higher than 0.7. Summary of reliability information as provided in Table 4.2. For ease of use part, there was one question that it needed to revise. Because of its negative label, after revised, was used for calculating alpha reliability level. Summary statistic. In order to analyze data, general linear model in SPSS software was used. After factor analysis and be sure about the validity of each constructs, SPSS software was used to analyze. From the Analyze menu in General Linear Model, univariate was selected. PDI, int and UAI were selected at fixed factors that can affect the constructs. Each of constructs was selected as dependent variable to find different level of difference on fixed factors. P was defined significant at 0.05, P, 0.05. For each construct this process was done. Tables and results were shown in the following pages. According to the table 4.3, for perceived usefulness, PDI is a significant item. It was interpreted that behavior toward usefulness will be significant different in two levels of PDI, low and high. Int is not a significant item for usefulness. Any level in int has same behavior toward usefulness. UAI is another significant item for usefulness. It can mean that three levels of UAI, low, moderate, high, have different perception of usefulness according to their culture. Interaction between PDI and int, also int and UAI is not significant in usefulness. Different level of these items do not show very different attitude toward usefulness. But interact between PDI and UAI is significant. Different level of PDI, interact with different level of UAI, will show different behavior toward usefulness of a technology such as internet banking. There is at least one level of differentiation in this interaction. But there is not significant interact between all three dimensions of culture. According to the table 4.4, in each dimensions, only UAI is significant for this construct, which means there is difference between three levels of UAI, but for PDI and int there is no difference behaviors toward using internet banking. Interaction level between each two dimensions shows that none of each dimension behavior different in different level of high, moderate or high. In three-level interactions PDI and int and UAI, there is no difference between any different levels. When PDI interacts with int, the results will be significant, at least in one interaction level of this two-dimension. Samples showed the different attitudes. These different behaviors were seen in int and UAI interaction too. While UAI itself is significant, but its interact with PDI is not significant, and it showed no dissimilar behavior in samples with low or high PDI with low, moderate or high UAI. When int and UAI dimensions are significant, their interaction with PDI, three-level interactions between PDI, int and UAI, is not significant. It can show that samples did not behave very different when all three dimensions were interacted together. Perceived behavior control is another construct that was used in this paper to declare people from very different nations toward internet banking as a technology. Table 4.6 will show analysis results of this construct. When all three dimensions interact together, results show the significant behavior. It can be concluded that at least in one level of each of these dimensions there is difference in behaviors. For this construct, PDI and UAI are significant dimensions. Significant in PDI can show the various behaviors in low and high level of PDI. Significant result for UAI shows the difference in attitude toward use of internet banking in low, moderate and high level. Beside this, for int is not observed significant difference in low and high level. And interact between two dimensions, only PDI and UAI show significant difference in behavior in their low, moderate and high level. Remain items show no significant difference in any level. It means in three level of interacting, no difference behaviors were observed. Testing of hypotheses refer to the main hypothesis and the expanded hypotheses. It can be calculated that how usefulness construct for usefulness construct, according to the table 4.3, PDI less than 0.5 so it is significant. Also UAI shows a significant level, P, 0.05. In two level of interact only one item was significant. In UAI, two remains interact items are not significant. In three level of interact, PDI and UAI, there was no significant level. As a result, from 7 items that was shown in table 4.3, 3 items was significant. It declared that cultural dimensions can affect the usefulness, but it is still levels that were not affected by cultural dimensions. So it is necessary more caution in order to interpret this hypothesis. HB, ease of use construct. According to the table 4.4, there is only one significant item for this construct, which is UAI. It means only in UAI levels, low, moderate and high, the difference in attitudes is significant. This hypothesis cannot be accepted, because more than half of its items are not significant. Different people, from different nations, maybe do not show different behavior toward ease of use of a technology. HC, Subjective norm construct from subjective norm table. Table 4.5, int, UAI, PDI and UAI are significant for this construct. People will show different behavior toward subjective norm in different countries with various int, low or high, UAI, low, moderate or high. Also there is differences at least in one level of PDI and in UAI interactions. It can be concluded this hypothesis is accepted because in its most items differences is observed. HD, perceived behavior control construct as a result of table 4.6. PDI is a significant dimension for PBC. It can be meant that countries with different level of PDI, low or high. UAI is another significant dimension for PBC. Different behaviors can be seen in low, moderate and high level of UAI. PDI interact with UAI can be said as another significant item, so there is at least one difference in behavior control for PDI UAI. For perceived behavior control, interaction between three level of interact, PDI and UAI, is significant and was clear the differences between at least one level of this interaction. As a result, this hypothesis can be accepted because most of its items was significant. Behavior intention construct. The last item that will be discussed here is behavioral intention, BI. For this construct, PDI is one significant item that shows different behavior in different level of PDI. Next significant item factor is UAI that will show differences in low, moderate and high level of UAI. For interactive factors, only PDI UAI is significant and will show at least one level of difference in this factor. Table 4.7. Based on above discussion, again for this hypothesis it is necessary to say that more research and care is needed. Maybe in some level differences were significant and in another levels no significant differences were seen. Research findings as a summary of results. For usefulness and behavior intention, it is not possible to say a strong statement for accepting these hypotheses unless more research is run. Maybe in some level differences were significant, and in another level nothing was shown as differences. For subjective norm in perceived behavior control, hypotheses were accepted. For these constructs, PDI, and UAI were effect on people behavior toward internet banking, but not in all levels. Still there are items that significant difference were seen. As whole these hypotheses were accepted. But for ease of use, the hypothesis was rejected strongly. Because only in one factor was significant in this study, and could not support hypothesis. With a deeply observation, according to the table 2.3, design table, it will be concluded that, cultural dimensions, PDI dimension has effect on usefulness construct in TAM. It is following the previous research result, McCoy, 2005, that considered PDI as an affecting factor for usefulness in TAM. Countries which are in cells number 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11 will show different attitudes toward usefulness compared with countries in cells number 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. As example countries such as Jamaica, Iran, Argentina, Canada, Finland and Hungary, samples of low PDI countries, will show different attitudes toward usefulness in comparison with countries with high power distance, China, Arab world, Mexico, Slovakia and Belgium. Results for next construct, ease of use. Shows that countries with low PDI will not show different behaviors in comparison with high power distance index countries. For example, Jamaica samples will not behave different from France samples when look at a technology, internet banking, in ease of use aspect. This finding can be matched with McCoy, 2005, finding in some aspects. Previous study worked on relationship between SN and BI, but the purpose of this study is not finding the relationship. Subjective norm is another construct that PDI does not have effect for this study. This finding is unique result of this study that previous research is mentioned to that PDI is an effective factor on subjective norm in TAM. According this paper, PDI cannot have role in subjective norm. It can be meant that counties in design table 2.3 will not behave according to their PDI level in their society. As an example, cells numbers 1, includes Jamaica, has no different attitudes from cell number 10, includes Italy, in SN constructs. Another unique finding of this study is the significant differences for perceived behavior control construct when it goes under the PDI factor. Samples from cells that have different PDI will show dissimilar behaviors in PBC construct. Significant result for behavior intention to use internet banking is the next exclusive finding of this paper. The result shows a moderating effect of PDI on BI. Countries with low or high PDI factor have different attitudes to use internet banking. According to this study, Iran samples will behave different from Malaysian samples. Cultural dimensions, in resulting from and effects on usefulness, ease of use, perceived behavior control and behavior intention are the constructs that will be discussed in this section. Interesting result from this study is completely according to the explanation of Hofstede theory for countries that are low or high-end. Based on Hofstede definition, countries with low dimension in will tend to do activities in their belongings groups, and word of mouth is very important for using any facilities or services for this group. As revise, samples in countries with high level of individualism never trend to strong recommendation to their family, friends or closest persons to use or try facilities or services. Harris, 2005. In this study, subjective norm is only constructing that in can affects the behaviors of samples toward TAM. Behavior toward usefulness is not different for cells that shows low or high level in, and also ease of use is not a significant construct too. PBC and BI also shows no difference in different level of IND, low or high. Countries in different level of individualism, countries in cells 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 with low IND in contrast with countries in cells number 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12 with high PDI, showed no differences in attitudes for usefulness, ease of use, perceived behavior control and behavior intention. In subjective norms, there is strong difference between countries with low and high end. Countries such as China and South Korea will show different attitude in SN and compare with countries such as Finland, Norway, high PDI. Cultural dimensions, UAI. Another cultural dimension is UAI, which is defined in this paper in 3 levels, low, moderate and high. By referring to the analysis tables, it is clear that for all constructs this factor is significant. Another unique result of the study are belonging to the UAI factor. It can be meant that countries that are involved in this study will show different attitude towards 3 level of UAI. Cells numbers 1, 2, 7, 8 are representative of countries with low in PDI. Cells number 3, 4, 9 and 10 are countries with moderate level of UAI, and finally cell numbers 5, 6, 11 and 12 have high level of UAI. By referring to the literature part of this study where was explained about importance effect of UAI on using a technology, this study strongly proved this importance effects. Internet banking in some countries included in cells number 4, is a symbol of uncertain services that cannot show its level of trust to its users, so UAI role is very important to use a technology. Here UAI factors effects were proved on all TAM constructs. Interaction between cultural dimensions. Analyzing this paper in another level of comparison, interaction between 2 factors, was clear, interesting and unique results. Interact between PDI and IND is only significant for subjective norm construct and in other constructs has no effects, while each of these factors was significant when acted alone. As an example, cell number 1 with low in PDI and low in IND can create different effects on subjective norm compare with the cell number 8 with high PDI and high in IND. Another interact option is PDI and UAI, which is significant for usefulness and can create different attitudes in at least one level of each factor. Its sample can be cell number 1 and cell number 3, which represent the different level for PDI and IND. For ease of use, PDI and UAI interaction is not lead difference action toward ease of use. It can be mentioned that countries in cell number 2 is high in PDI and low in UAI, and cell number 3 as low in PDI and moderate in UAI, have no different attitudes towards ease of use construct. Also for subjective norm, different cells related to the PDI UAI do not have different approach. PBC is next construct that PDI UAI will show different positions. Cells number 1 compare with cell number 3, for this construct will show different approach at least in one level. For behavior intention to use internet banking, both PDI and UAI are significant. The interaction of PDI and UAI was created significant level 2. Again, example of cell number 2 and 3 can be used to show as patterns of this different attitude. The third level of interaction is IND and UAI. This intercalation showed interesting and important result. This level of interaction, IND UAI, is only significant for subjective norm construct. It is acceptable because both IND and UAI have key role in this construct according to Hofstede explanation. As an example, cell number 3 as moderate in UAI and low in IND, will show different attitudes and compare with the cell number 7 with low in UAI and high in IND. While IND UAI cleared very interesting result for subjective norm, but it was not significant for usefulness, ease of use, perceived behavior control and behavior intention. Referring to above example for cells number 3 and 7 that show differences in SN construct, no different approaches was expected for these two cells and remain constructs. By going to 3 interaction level of cultural dimensions, PDI and UAI, important result was clear. Although each construct included significant items for cultural dimensions, but only for perceived behavior control construct this interaction is significant and presents the different attitudes. As example, cell number 8 with high PDI, high IND and low UAI, will show different behavior at least in one level of its cultural dimensions and compare that cell number 5 as representative of low in PDI, low in IND and high in UAI. In other constructs such as usefulness, ease of use, subjective norm and behavior intention to use internet banking, there is no significant level, so no special approaches was expected. As a result, 2 hypotheses were accepted, SN and PBC. For usefulness and behavior intention, it is not easy to accept or reject these 2 hypotheses. For ease of use, strongly the hypothesis was rejected. In next chapter, reasons and causes of these differences and similarities in attitudes will be discussed. Chapter 5 Discussion and Conclusion. Introduction. Summary. Based on previous chapters, this chapter will discuss the effect of the Hofstede cultural dimensions on TAM. This chapter will discuss about finding of Hofstede cultural dimension effects on technology acceptance model constructs, and will give conclusion about the results. Also will give implication for managers, and will guide the further research in future. Conclusion. Although numerous studies have used the TAM model, but a limited number of studies have focused on the cultural dimensions effects on acceptance of a technology around the world. This study is the first research which examined the Hofstede cultural dimensions on technology acceptance model with wide range of countries. It will be an important step in validating the model according to the culture. Also, this study finds the limitations of TAM in different cultures. This research represents a contribution to the IT literature because it is one of the first attempts to validate the TAM model around the world. It 1. Compares perceptions and use of the same technology in more than 30 countries from 5 continents. And 2. Tests the TAM model in a technically similar environment, according to the assumption, all sample must work or study in Malaysia at least 6 months, especially for African countries, in order to put all samples in a fair situation for comparison. One of the unique findings of this study related to the PDI effect on subjective norm. Here was proved no differences between countries with low or high in PDI factor, but for perceived behavior control PDI plays an effective role for low and high PDI level. This is also the unique results of this study. Finding that countries with low, moderate or high UAI will show different attitudes is another unique finding of this study. Also, this study accepts previous results for IND effects on subjective norm and interaction level, which was done first time in this study, was clear, interesting and unique results. It is shown that while each of cultural dimensions can be significant in individual comparison, when they go under 2-level and 3-level interaction, they will drop their significant level. As an example, in 3 levels interaction only NPBC will be significant construct. This study declared that subjective norm is a strong aspect of collectivism cultures and has a significant role in affect the people in society behavior toward a technology, so countries with low level of individualism, beside the high degree of uncertainty avoidance, are most affected by their around people. Discussions. According to No Boundaries Cultures idea, there is belief that cultures move to be one unified without special differences. But this study proved that although people from different nations stay together as a united purpose, but all of them keep and save their cultural background, Changing cultural background need times more than years. In this paper, samples from African countries, while stay in Malaysia around 2 or 3 years, but still looked at their customs and cultural learning. The results of the study should be interpreted with caution. It suggests that the TAM model may not hold equally well across cultures. If these results prove to be reproducible in other studies, this finding holds significant implications for both IT researchers who wish to study the adoption and diffusion of innovations and IT practitioners who want to successfully implement systems across borders. To discuss about the limitations of TAM, it may be referred to different comprehension about TAM construct which are constant, but in different cultures it can carry various meanings. As an example, usefulness can have different aspects in each nation that were examined in this study. Ease of use can carry special meanings in one culture, but in same situation, for a person with another culture was very different. So beliefs and comprehension in one culture can affect of people with those specific culture. In order to examine the samples of this study, they were put in same situation to find their behavior towards technology acceptance model constructs and to find the differences and similarities between their attitudes. Another discussed related to TAM limitation can refer to error of measurements. It can be interpreted as limitation of measurement that used to find the people attitudes. Sometimes, measures can reflect the means. In this paper, because of specific purpose of study to find different people attitude towards TAM around the world, specific measurements need to be matched with people beliefs in each countries that was examined. So it is possible each construct of TAM carries meanings that can be different around the world. From above discussion, it can be concluded that it is necessary to develop TAM theory in order to adapt in very different nations, then it is possible to rely on TAM results more than ever. Another consequential item that must be considered is measurement. Maybe it needs specific measurement to use in different culture. Interpreting of the result needs more care and caution, especially when a study works in very wide range of cultures. It is necessary to cross-cultural validation in order to compare different culture behaviors toward technology acceptance model. Implications: globalization and the ubiquitous nature of the Internet facilitate Internet banking activities across nations. In today's globalization world, popularity of multinational corporations, and the movement toward technological revolutions, the value of more cross-cultural research is needed. As firms grow their operations in the international arena, there is a need to exploit the power of IT to communicate among these widespread locations and to coordinate activities both within and across countries. Hence, it is important for the managers of these firms to learn, as much as they can, about the cross-cultural adoption and use of IT. This study can help managers in international corporations to select right behavior toward their employees from different cultural background. This research can show a way to adaptation of technology between multinational companies, step by step, without forcing people to use a new technology. By following right ways to adaptation of technology, people will acceptance the technology as a facilitate instrument, so this lead to prevent the failure of IT adaptation in a multicultural company. Corporations would benefit by recognizing the effect that cultures has on technology acceptance and by implementing appropriate and possibly different technologies at their various worldwide facilities. This study identifies several different consideration factors that come into play when one is confronted with new technology. By using the argument of this study, managers of corporate can make more informed decisions on technology upgrades and new technology implementations based on the culture they're corporate within. Culture and business ties to each other these days, as incorporation is going to enter new countries. First and important point is finding the culture of that countries in both view of business culture and people culture as user of their product and service. If people beliefs reject the use of a technology, it can be result of not paying enough attention to people culture, customs and beliefs. This research can be used in multicultural countries, where different people with different cultures live beside each other's. This can lead to cause some problems. This research gives a wide range of cultural divisions that can helpful for handling problems. Recommendations for further research: by referring to the previous studies, it clears that there is not enough studies on TAM in view of culture. Existing studies only work on adaptation of TAM without look at the cultural effects. While culture plays an important role in technology acceptance and adaptation, especially in technology that people are not certain about its security and privacy. Internet banking and mobile banking are samples of these kinds of technologies. Also, this research proved that still it needed more work on TAM for developing its theory. A recommendation for future research can be work more on TAM for developing theory. Also, it is necessary some cross-cultural validation and verification in order to create constructs that are more reliable when going through different culture. Another aspect that can still work on it is more work on hypothesis findings in this research, when each dimensions of culture can affect TAM, but their interaction cannot create effect. In other words, going more into details of each level can be a guideline for further researches. Thank you for taking your time to listen to me. I hope you enjoyed learning about communication media for banking industry as much as I did. Kindly remember that you can get a custom, plagiarism-free essay at A9AYTZ for as little as $10. The link is in the description. See you next time.